Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tell All.
They're calling you a pedophile, and you're talking about some petty friendship drama? Are you kidding me?
My friend is not who I thought he was.
This is incredibly exhausting, mentally exhausting. Just everything about the situation. You know, things should have never gotten to this point.
In 2019, the Pokemon community was struck by exposure within the community coming out with stories about one another completely destroying each other's channels and reputations. Today we will be talking about the one who got it the most that year, the king who lost his throne, Nappy. At his peak, Nappy had 525,000 subscribers on his main channel, over 100,000 on his Nappy the Great channel, almost 100,000 Twitter followers, and almost 200,000 Twitch followers. What made him lose it all? Kyle McNeil, aka Nappy, is from Tucson, Arizona, born on September 21st, 1992. He is currently 30 years old. Before Pokemon, Nappy started with the channel Mr. Nappy Boy 92, which was his gamer tag, apparently named after T-Pain's Nappy Boy Records. The focus on this channel was Xbox 360, PS3, and Steam game Let's Plays, which slowly turned into Call of Duty highlights and became a commentary channel. It also featured some raps and IRL vlogs and clickbait type videos. Nappy went on to create the King Nappy, a channel that had yet to go into Pokemon, but still consisted of gaming content focusing on 360 and PS3 era Let's Plays. This, however, did not stop him from making some connections towards the Pokemon community, mostly through PokeTuber Cuddle of Death. His close friend Twit was also starting a Pokemon Let's Play on his own second channel, which might have been the initial reason for shifting into Pokemon content, because soon after Nappy decided to play Pokemon Sapphire, which led to Cuddle collabing with him, which was what began the initial growth of his channel. He tried to be appealing by promising daily Pokemon videos, which wasn't really a thing among the Pokemon community at the time, unlike the immense content waves you get from the Pokemon community now. This later evolved into less daily videos and more like 8 Pokemon videos a week with some days off. What initially helped his growth was the upcoming release of Pokemon X and Y, in which more collabs took place. You have to also realize that at the time, the term PokeTuber was still barely a term used, which in this time frame helped him be one of the first to really secure that title. From the very start of his career, Nappy had a few controversies on his plate. One of Nappy's earlier controversies came from one of his old friends who went by the name Big Country. They would usually do Minecraft and other types of videos together, including a good amount of Pokemon videos, which Nappy helped convince Country to start playing. Later in 2013 is when shit hit the fan. Nappy and Country ceased all communications permanently. Nappy explained months later after the fact that Country was disrespectful to women, like Cuddle and Jamie, which always didn't sit right because Country would later interact with these women like they were all still friends, despite Nappy's claim. Only thing Country said at the time was in this video.
Everybody needs a break. If you don't, you turn into a fucking ass, and you turn into a dick, and you start being mean to your viewers and your subs and all that. Nobody wants that. And channel size has a lot to do with that crap too, man. I know people personally, they don't want to admit their channel size has changed them, but at the same time, it is what it is. I ain't gonna go into that conversation. That's a personal matter.
After Nappy got exposed, someone just straight up asked Country what happened in 2013, commenting on one of the videos he did with Nappy. In his comment, Country said that he saw Nappy was manipulative and Country was too old to fall for it when everyone else did. Even Etika had his fair share of controversies with Nappy, publicly showing his distaste for him, while Nappy would never even mention him by name. The final example comes to us in March 2014. Nappy and a couple of other PokeTubers publicly bullied a man and destroyed his reputation. A growing PokeTuber named Hardy Tokyo used to have connections with Nappy back in the 360 PS3 days. They had a falling out when Hardy was a teen. Hardy years later reflected and tried to make amends and apologize for his part in their friendship breaking 3 years prior.
No, he had like 200 subscribers. I had like 50 at the time. We both knew each other. We were friends at that point, and now we are well-known people in the Pokemon community. And it's kind of weird to think about. And unfortunately, we did have like a bit of falling out.
Instead of simply responding, maybe accepting or denying the apology, maybe sending a quick 1 or 2 tweets, or even taking the topic to DMs, Nappy made sure to instead spend the entire day making sure Hardy went through hell. He pretty much formed the mob to attack him. What did Hardy do though? Just let them have their tantrum. Many of Nappy's group and fans really didn't know Hardy or the situation at all, but still went after him because Nappy was mad that Hardy simply mentioned him. At the time of 2014, this seemed uncharacteristic for Nappy. These course of actions led to the Hardy channel ending, only coming back in 2019 for a final Let's Play, only because Nappy was finally outed as the bully. In 2014, the same year the Hardy situation took place, a GFX artist named Nintendo Decoder, aka Nathan Putnam, was seen around Giancarlo Paramango 11's friend group. At the time, for unknown reasons, Nathan left that group and started hanging around Nappy, and even did some GFX for him. Nappy started the Twitch group Primetime in 2015, and Nathan was a part of it, and was, to say the least, a very odd fellow.
Don't turn down for anything at all. No matter what they tell you, I don't care. Oh my god. Alright, Nathan, this is all the time I'm gonna ask you. Please turn down. Will you turn down?
Nappy had a weird fixation with Nathan. There was just one video where Nappy and friends promoted Nathan to their audience and donated to him for a reason that will come up soon. But in 2015, someone spoke out against Nathan. Lumio Station GFX guy Bulbasaurus, aka Pedro, amplified this, and this was completely ignored by most of the community. Here are some screenshots that were provided. In 2016, a new victim came out and tried to warn people about Nathan. Suddenly, the Pokemon community treated this as a very serious topic. Again, this was about grooming after all. They treated it like some typical Twitter drama when suddenly it all got deleted off of Twitter like it was nothing. Vegas Jamie, otherwise known as Mudkip Mama, made a tweet longer claiming the victim was a liar, and these people threatened Pedro for helping victims. This is how PokeTubers treated the situation, where a scared victim told them about a lingering danger in the community. After the situation came to pass, Nathan would change his name from Nintendo Decoder to Decadur. Because of Jamie's efforts, Nathan showed up to Primetime for 3 more years unopposed. In fact, the same year as the 2016 exposure, Nappy encouraged this by apparently wanting to put respect back on Nathan's name. Nappy, along with others, pushed this respect for Nathan thing throughout the video, pushing Nathan into getting to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube with the power of Primetime. And there's plenty of tweets that back this information up. Despite the times, the allegations made against Nathan, Nappy, and others desperately tried to find ways to give this man a platform. There was also a clip taken from Twit's perspective, but the only thing that survived from the actual stream all these years was some of the audio. Listen in as Nappy says he will use his influence to get Nathan, an alleged groomer, on a panel at a future convention.
He is a real MV motherfucking P.
True.
The next convention we go to that Nathan attends, he's getting a seat on the goddamn panel. I don't care.
On March 27, 2019, the victim from 2016 made a video talking about what happened years back. Nathan allegedly pressured her into sending inappropriate pictures. Nathan would end up sharing those pictures with others. This led to multiple other women, both adult and underage, exposing Nathan with screenshots, and when it comes to minor images, he's a repeat offender. He also lied about his age multiple times. Again, this video is about Nappy, but to understand his story, it's also important to understand where he stood in situations like this one, with the many others that also got exposed. He was close to these people. He's responsible in some regards. Here especially when someone you know has gotten exposed twice for the same thing, and you end up doing nothing. Especially since Giancarlo Paramango 11 admitted Nathan got kicked from his group because of what he did to victim 3, a 13-year-old. Nappy stalled for days after the initial video, refusing to put out a statement. It became clear the whole community was waiting for Nappy to respond, because he was the only person keeping Nathan relevant, as we discussed prior. So on March 31st, Nappy put out a statement acting as if Nathan was barely an associate and decried his actions. Nappy said he and his friends had no idea what Nathan was doing. He would end up deleting Nathan-specific clips off his Nappy the Great channel, including that "Put Respect on His Name" stream. However, Nappy did not read the other statements his friends made about Nathan. JYT Gamer, in his statement, outright said they all knew, referenced a 2016 incident, and literally told Nathan to stop that pedo shit behind the scenes. Even Pedro reiterated what happened in 2015. Nappy lied. Nappy fans responded with disappointment by this lie. Nappy was known for being an asshole at this point, but Nappy fans assumed when shit gets serious, he would step up and do the right thing, and he blew it as he continuously will do so. Mudkip Mama, aka Jamie Majorinen from Nebraska, she's in her late 30s. Her husband is a former content creator named Mr. Brizzo. Nappy attended their wedding in 2015. I really don't think we need any more proof than that to see that, yeah, they were pretty close. Oh, and she even has a young daughter. As we discussed previously, Jamie defended Nathan back in 2016 when the discussion of Nathan's grooming came into light. With the victim speaking out in 2019, Jamie had to respond. This time around, it was received very poorly due to the fact that she was defending actions that are undefendable. At the same time, conveniently, it came out that Nathan's exposure only led to Jamie's victims finding the courage to come out with their own stories about her. Allegedly, one of these victims was a teenager who was hospitalized, and at the same time she was dating another teenager, basically having two minors at the same time that she was grooming. The second victim's parents even had to step in completely and ended up getting him off the internet. Jamie even tried to force herself on PokeTuber Patters after an entire vacation where she kept trying to convince him to have sexual relations with her. Guess who organized this vacation? Nappy. Nappy and Twit both knew about Jamie and her grooming outing since 2017. Her own friends continued this by outing her out with all the information that they knew about her, with even more confirmation from her friends that she did do these things, even having Jamie herself confirmed that Nappy and Twit knew about these things. Here, let's throw a fun fact for you all. The name Vegas Jamie was actually her real username for quite a while until switching into Mudkip Mama, but this name was actually used for quite some time for her porn account, in which she allowed minors to follow her. Finally, as I stated before, she was married, and what did he think? Well, like everyone else around her besides those who outed her, he didn't care. Nappy had a number of victims, and we will be going through all of them, starting of course with his first. Around the same time Nappy got caught lying about Nathan, PokeTuber Gameboy Luke came out with his story. Gameboy Luke began by stating Nappy's manipulative behavior and continued with a huge allegation that Nappy tried to force him into a relationship for years. When he refused to comply, Nappy would resort to blackmailing him. He was trying to convert Luke's sexuality. Nappy made threats that if Luke didn't comply, he would be cut off from the group, and ultimately, Nappy turned a threat into reality. Luke tried his hardest to keep his friends, and when Luke stopped complying, Nappy slandered Luke's name to their entire friend group, resulting in Luke seeking therapy due to these experiences. We will continue to see similar events happen with his other victims. Gameboy Luke speaking out would in turn encourage PokeTuber Hoodlum Callum to speak out as well. Nappy met Callum way back in early 2013, back when Callum was referred to as I Humped Sheep on Twitter. They would do collabs with each other, which would result in Hoodlum Scrafty joining Nappy's Lumio station. Then when PAX 2015 came around, something between the two had happened. Nappy and Callum unfollowed each other off of Twitter. Callum left Lumios and all projects with Nappy. Unlike Big Country, Nappy refused to state what happened with Callum. Callum himself also refused to comment. People demanded for Callum to come back to Lumio Station, and people assumed that whatever might have happened was mostly Nappy's fault given his past dramas and his very shitty attitude. Callum would eventually speak out and explain that Nappy had groomed them as far back as late 2013. He confessed his love to Callum and said if Callum didn't feel the same way, they could no longer be friends. He said that to, at the time, a 16-year-old who was at the time sexually confused and lacked any friends, so you can imagine the pressure the poor guy was in. The situation here is similar to that of Luke's situation. It sounds like more of the same threats from Nappy, taking advantage of his own popularity at the time, and using it as a means to manipulate people into getting what he wants.
Wanted to say to you guys and explain everything in terms of like Nappy and Nathan and why I don't really mess with Nappy anymore.
Overall, do I think he's a bad person? Automatically, if you're fucking trying to take advantage of people who are younger than you.
The reaction from the community was an agreement between all, that Nappy was a huge manipulator. Some of them have heard previously about the situation, specifically about Nappy, Callum, and Luke, since 2016. Nappy's former circle would continually say they had little to no idea about Nappy's grooming. Nappy went silent, and eventually tweeted out that he was streaming to address everything, and by addressing it, he just used distraction tactics for a majority of the stream. Nappy just brushes off Jamie's accusations as something he didn't know, which was obviously not true. He does say he's going to deal with the Jamie stuff later, but from what we know now, Nappy and Jamie are still cool with each other. He continues to state lies and continues to stall by talking about his channel. He said something about the graphics commissions in the stream. The GFX artist at the time tweeted this in response, showing more lies coming from Nappy. Back to his response about Callum. After his initial response, a document would come to light countering what Nappy would claim on his stream, released that same year on April 2nd, giving more proof on what Callum had to go through after Nappy's grooming. The backstory about what happened at PAX South 2015 is something to be noted. Before the Google Doc, this video was the only explanation. This video stated why Nappy was being so weird on Twitter and why he wasn't speaking about Callum. Something to be noted on as well is the disabled comment section in the video. His explanation about the lack of vlogs was that the hotel internet wasn't up to speed in uploading any vlogs, and obviously this didn't make any sense because firstly he came home with footage, but also his friend still recorded at PAX South 2015 and uploaded it with him in it. Side note, for those who have watched my Purple Rodgery video, PAX South 2015 is actually the same event in which allegedly Rodgery made his moves on his victim. I honestly don't know what the actual fuck was going through the minds of YouTubers in this event. To continue, Nappy had 2 Tumblr accounts. Seemingly the reason for them was to stalk select males in community. Some fans were also followed by this account and had no idea who Blaine's Magmar was. For context, this was the name of the account. It just so happens that his Tumblr answers would be what gave away that it was Nappy. On those 2 accounts, he would talk about a girl who he pined over. The girl he was referring to in this case was about his victims. Which victim? Well, let's just say it was both we've talked about so far, allegedly being both Luke and Callum. Nappy had a second response, if you can even call it that, but it also pushed all the wrong buttons. His response to the very organized and very in-depth Google Doc can be summed up with just a few words, that he spoke his own truth. Overall, he stated he was sorry his audience had to see this drama in the first place. He said nothing to apologize to either Callum, Luke, or any colleagues, nor acknowledging his manipulative behavior, but most importantly out of this statement was that he was leaving the content creation scene. When this response came out, his fanbase railed behind it, despite Nappy having no proof to counter anything in the Google Doc. News sources started even picking up the story. For example, Kotaku and Newsweek printed the story for that week. Nappy even responded to Kotaku, adding nothing new to what already has been said. In response to Nappy's second statement, PokeTuber Sacred Fire, you guys probably now know him by his new name Sacred Almighty, claimed that Nappy had an underage boyfriend, and that messages and Discord evidence will be provided to prove that further. This made the matter even worse. It led to people believing that Nappy was now a repeated offender, and to add on, people started wondering how many more victims this man really had. Nappy recognized this reaction because he immediately ran away by locking accounts after Sacred tweeted that out. It was later revealed that Nappy had suspiciously deleted over 80 tweets the day all this started to come out. Victim 3 would finally come out and they went by Stormy Kingdra. He was a fan of Nappy. He was even given Twitch mod privileges by Nappy. The twitlonger that was released goes on to talk about Nappy's manipulative behavior and further testimony that Nappy has allegedly admitted he dated Luke and Callum in private, and again continued to actively try to convert sexuality to suit Nappy's needs. Nappy's fourth victim is lesser known because the PokeTuber community didn't really bring this up and decided that Stormy Kingdra was the endpoint of all this. This was on April 4th, 2019. On Instagram, a user going by the name of Mr. Lewis97, who was a Nappy and Shady Penguin fan, and I can't stress this enough, allegedly was privately messaged by Nappy despite the fact that he was underage, trying to sexually convert him to be gay. The place this information was found off was on Reddit. After over 3 years, the creator of the post decided to take the entire thing down. You could almost entirely miss victim 4, but we still have yet to have any real confirmation of this, or really know if this is true, but with Nappy's track record, we have yet to know. Decadur, aka Nathan Putnam, who we talked about previously on March 31st, 2019, was at PAX East when all of this information came out about him. He was scheduled to be a part of a Smash tournament at the event. He got kicked from the Smash tournament event quickly. He went home, he started a lease with PokeTuber King Corfish, who wanted nothing to do with him and feared Nathan had nothing to lose and would resort to violence. Nathan eventually left the house by April 3rd. This is of note because unless PokeTubers are keeping this away from public knowledge, this is the last time anyone heard about Nathan's whereabouts in over 3 years. Nathan also owed King Corfish $3,000. Vegas Jamie, aka Mudkip Mama, aka Jamie, goddamn, that's a lot of names she had on the internet, put out a statement claiming she went to therapy to deal with what she did, and then proceeded to get back on and then off constantly for what? Over 3 years now, constantly going private, then unprivating her account, and then deactivating her account, then reactivating it. You fucking name it. Don't you have a kid to take care of? This went on all the way until she ultimately switched accounts in February 2020, but on the Mudkip Mama account, she would confirm multiple times that Nappy was still in contact with her. Jamie still had her own fans, surprisingly, supporting her and comforting her, because I guess they just don't care about the victims, I guess. As for Nappy, he went quiet for almost 9 months. No interactions from his YouTube channel. Even if it was still getting some views, the sub count was still dropping like a rock. Nappy was finally gone. No comment on Stormy Kingdra either. The PokeTubers were moving on, talking about unity between creators, and starting off fresh. 3 years later, and almost nothing came out of this because clearly Nappy wasn't the only issue here, even if he was a major one. The PokeTubers and victims haven't made a video on this themselves besides Sacred doing it out of caution. As we talked about, Cuddle of Death was close to Nappy, and she did her best not speaking about anything beyond what she already put out there, and a vague "I feel sorry for the victim" statement. The heated Mo slowed down on content creation. Nexus would vent about his Nappy Nation harassment on streams here and there, but it wasn't anything like he would eventually say in 2020. Shockingly, PK Sparks would never say a word about any of this. Shady Penguin had put out his corporate statement, still trying to save face with Nappy. There were people who suspected at the very least he knew about the allegations, but didn't care until it was made public. There would be a response from other sources. Shofu and Shizzy threw some shots on the Cypher videos.
King. Tryna fuck with the kid, you get a shit show. Pokestar Studios, we gon' let it clip go. Niggas wanna battle me, good luck, little bitch. The pistol stay under my wing, guess I'm stuck with this shit. I don't leave nothing with Oak, I pull up with this shit. You nappy headed niggas couldn't never fuck with the kid.
There was one person in the group still defending Nappy and Jamie after all the victims came out. Primetime member Nikki Flair, who has changed her name multiple times in later years and is now known as Miss Mystic. At the time, though, she did agree that Jamie was also acting a little strange, yet she still stands with Jamie. Speaking of primetime members, let's talk about Ralphie Trey, aka Ralph McNeil. Nappy introduced him on Primetime. Ralphie is a part of Nappy's actual family. When the news came out about Nappy, Jamie, and Nathan, Ralphie seemed shaken on Twitter. He had been roommates with Twit in Arizona for years at that point. Ralphie made a single statement saying he needed time to process and then deactivated his account. Twit denies knowing about Nappy, but there was more than meets the eye here. On March 31st, 2019, Cuddle of Death made a Twit Longer. In this Twit Longer, she explains that during the same 2015 Vegas trip that Patters talked about, Twit forced her, knowing she was a sexual assault victim, into a three-way with Jamie. Yes, that same Jamie that Twit wouldn't speak up about. Then Twit would cheat on her with Jamie after the fact. Before you even think Nappy is finally done, you're wrong, because Nappy would proceed to gaslight Cuddle into not leaving Twit, only for Nappy to plan with Twit in the background to ghost Cuddle and move Twit to his state of Arizona. Twit did respond. In it, he called Cuddle of Death clingy and paranoid. Twit called her parents racist and said that he was just trying to leave a toxic environment while living with Cuddle, but also admits he did cheat on her with Jamie. But he said the three-way was consensual. Cuddle responded denying what Twit said. In the years since this came out, both Cuddle and Twit have continuously dropped in subscribers and followers and have never really recovered. Twit was a longtime friend with two groomers. One confirmed he had known about. The notion that he didn't know about Nappy's grooming ventures is something he will always continue to convince people of. Some Nappy fans were still clinging on to the idea that he would return someday. This was mostly seen on the Nappy subreddit. In late 2019, they either happened to find this new private Instagram account, or this was something they already knew about and just kept it on the down low. Either way, just like his Tumblr, the account's name is Blaine's Magmar. In early December 2019, Nappy would show the first signs of his return in months. He changed the graphics to something more simplistic on both his main channel, Twitch, and Nappy the Great. He also renamed himself to just Nappy instead of the King Nappy, but Nappy didn't make his official return until Christmas Eve. The night of Christmas Eve, Nappy returned to Twitch. The VOD is still up to see. So I don't really understand why he would even return. The fact that he had the mindset to even do so is insane. He baited people into thinking he was going to address shit at the end of the stream, and he said nothing. In my opinion, this is so disrespectful to the victims, and really shows how much of a shit disgusting human being Nappy really is. After 9 months of silence, who was Nappy with that day? 3 moderators. The first one was Jamie. To no one's surprise, Nappy added nothing new to his statement. There's overwhelming testimony that he knew about Jamie's grooming for years, and with this stream, he confirmed he didn't give a fuck about what she did. He will continue to stand by her, and will always do so, no matter what she does at this point. The second moderator is Ralphie Trey, Nappy's family member as we talked about earlier. The only statement he ever made since Nappy came back was in his bio, "I have spoken," and by coming in the stream only showed us that he ended up siding with Nappy. Regardless of family, I don't think forgiving him for grooming minors is something you should be standing by your family with at all. The third moderator was someone named Trigger Trey, now named Trizzy Trey. I admit I don't know who this is. All we know is that he spent the past few years being friends with Jamie while she was under a new name. Still though, he was hanging out with groomers and shit. To get back on Nappy, let's look at this in depth, shall we? We have a known groomer streaming a children's game, with a stream title that implies he's daring people to try and stop him, with sub-only mode activated and ads on. This in hindsight looks terrible, and it's just fucking awful. Thousands of eyes were on him this stream. The anti-cancel culture crowd donated a lot to him, and he was trending on Twitter. You know how hard it is to trend on Twitter on Christmas Eve of all days? But Nappy did it. He got Twitter to mock him like never before and made way more people aware of the danger than in March. This to me is still highly negative though, because he got this attention, because he got the eyes back on him when they shouldn't have been looking at him at all. Nappy didn't make any public moves after this for the rest of the year. However, this leads us to our next victim. Another one of Nappy's fans said he also made a Twitch mod named Baller, said this on the day of Nappy's stream. Then he gave the information to Philly Beats U to amplify it. What's interesting about this one is that the Discord account he used to flirt with him was called Blaine's Magmar. That name sound familiar? This means that, yeah, he just uses that name all the time when he feels like harassing others. On January 27, 2019, Nappy returned to YouTube, uploading his playthrough of Sword and Shield from Twitch and promising to continue the Let's Play from there. He tried to disable comments on the videos until he just didn't. It wasn't that big of a reaction from the community either, but there was still reactions. Everyone by this point was fed up with Nappy, even being blacklisted by the GFX community for what he has done. Days later, Sacred decided this was the time to have a conversation about the matter.
He returned to content creation after the shitstorm, or the shit show rather.
One key note here that makes this video very important is Sacred confirms Blaine's Magmar is Nappy's alt, and not some fan or something. Finally, this was direct confirmation from Sacred that Nappy slandered Luke's name to his friends. Nappy again wouldn't respond. He kept uploading to his YouTube channel and promoting a new Instagram, Nappy Lifts. Nappy still got some views, but that was even starting to slow down, and you could tell because he filled the videos with ads, likely because he was running out of money. His loyal fans always trying to hype him up whenever he returns, but after a while it's clear that Nappy has changed. He lived in a world that knows what he did. Even his fans agreed. His videos felt different. On March 21st, 2020, despite Sacred saying the previous podcast was the final word on this, he did talk about it on another podcast. The takeaway here is simply after Nappy got exposed in 2019, there was at least 3 suicide attempts, and if Nappy was truly watching everything said about him, he heard this, and he just carried on like nothing happened. April 2020, the 1-year anniversary of Nappy's exposure came. There were pressure to get certain people to talk about Nappy and the fact that he was on YouTube still, unopposed. So Shady spoke about it, since people kept asking when he and Nappy would do a co-op again. The biggest takeaway here is that Shady also confirms that Nappy is the one behind the Blaine's Magmar Instagram. He would talk to Nappy there. To go off topic, just because I think this is fucking hilarious, Shady actually talks about Nappy coming to him in order to trademark the term Soul Link Nuzlocke. Nappy even had a whole ass lawyer with him in order to do this. This is equivalent to when the Fine Bros tried to trademark reaction videos, especially since Nappy did not create Nuzlocking whatsoever. To me, this just shows how money hungry Nappy can be. After Shady's video though, a former Primetime member named Grim Ghastly made this thread about what was going on behind the scenes with Nappy as the leader of Primetime. She describes being at Primetime as worse than a job, in terms of how Primetime members were treated, and the arbitrary rules put in place. Apparently Nappy mocked her and screwed her out of streams that she wanted to do just because she couldn't do the streams he wanted her to do, because she had to take care of her nieces. She claims he defended R. Kelly after the document on R. Kelly dropped. That's actually fucking hilarious to me. I'm pretty sure he even tweeted shit suggesting he stood by R. Kelly. Grim Ghastly confirms Nappy would just start drama behind the scenes for entertainment. She goes further by claiming Nappy insulted many of his own friends. He would slander many people. Nappy even apparently claimed none of his clique is worth shit. She mentions Jamie as Nappy's lapdog, if that wasn't obvious already. Mohit was Nappy's parrot. For some reason, Nappy tried to dox Grim Ghastly. He slandered Mohit's ex named Diamond, both over the years calling her racist, when she wasn't. And during his March 2019 response stream, Diamond in 2020 talked about that when Mohit got exposed, which got supported backed up by the PokeTuber community. And Grim Ghastly also confirms that Nappy did not believe in mental health. Like Shady, she does not believe Nappy is getting help. Finally, Grim Ghastly suggested there were others outside the known victims who were also coerced by Nappy. The next person to make a video on the topic was Numb Nexus. Nexus states that the Nappy Nation harassment over the past year, in conjunction with the revelation about Nappy's grooming in general, had him suicidal and he needed therapy. He says Nappy was an overall bully. He references someone named David. David's username was SensationalGP. Nappy for like 6 years really helped give the stigma that David was mentally disabled. David even left the community at one point because of that. Nexus goes on to say that the Nappy Nation was toxic. Nappy knew the mob he created. He told his friends many times to get in line with whatever he wanted. If not, he threatened to kick them from the group. Nexus reiterates the fact that Nappy got a lawyer to trademark Soul Link, so instead of getting a lawyer to clear his name, he got one to trademark something that wasn't his. If Nappy says he's innocent from all the claims being made against him, why doesn't he try clearing his name? And to this day, he hasn't made any attempt to clear himself at all. And to reiterate, I mean with a lawyer. Nexus goes on to say that Nappy lied to them about what happened to the Lumio station money, while Nappy used that same money to continue to coerce one of his victims. For context, Sacred tweeted that Nappy stole the Lumio station idea from him. In a thread, he explained the idea was for it to be called Showdown Central and had a mock-up ready for it. Then he showed an unlisted video from his friend's YouTube channel with the initial trailer that never got released. It was uploaded in August 2013. Here's that trailer.
What's up YouTube, my name is Signified Negro and welcome to Showdown Central. Showdown Central is a community channel based around the online Pokemon battle simulator, PokemonShowdown.com, where you get a chance to upload your Pokemon vids alongside our directors.
3 months later, Nappy would take that same idea. Okay, back to the Nexus video. He mentions the idea for the United Championship League was his idea. For those who don't know, it was just a Pokemon tournament, but it involved a lot of PokeTubers, and Nappy took all the praise from it. Finally, I do want to mention that we all know by now that prime time was absolute hell. Nappy even telling members that if you are not throwing up, then start your prime time stream. Which leads to Nexus saying Nappy told him that Pokemon was more important than grieving over his family. This leads us to the last person who made a video about the situation, JYT Gamer, now called Vanta J. JYT Gamer would apparently make this because he was being insulted for not making a video, so he would just make this. He would end up just reaffirming everything said before. Jay was consistently made fun of by Nappy going back to at least since 2014. Jay would always reminisce on how they met. Nappy found one of his Nuzlocks, saw that Jay made a mistake, and shitted on Jay for the mistakes over and over. That's how they met. There was really no takeaways here besides the reaffirmation that Nappy did the things he did. With all the videos made about him, Nappy would respond to none of them. He just kept uploading Pokemon until he finished the main story of Pokemon Sword and Shield on May 15, 2020. He would apparently hint on new videos coming and even a return to Twitch, but didn't do so. His Nappy Lives Instagram was still getting updates by this point, but then it stopped somewhere around the time he uploaded this on his Instagram story.
No, I haven't quit YouTube. No, I haven't quit Twitch. There's just a lot of things going on in my life right now that are much more important.
The takeaway from this footage was that before he cut the camera off, he established that he had someone checking in on him and making sure he was okay. Nappy would again say he would return at some point, but around this time, the Twitlongers that would come out would start concerning many people in the community. The PokeTuber community was convinced to unite for a statement against Nappy. That's where Sacred came in. He took most of the testimony I shown here and made this statement. The hashtag ban Nappy was made and didn't really go far. Nappy wasn't even around to see this. But in response, Nappy's third victim, Stormy Kingdra, said a final message about the matter. Stormy made it clear that just like Callum, Nappy planned to have sexual relations with him when he turned 18. He also said that Nappy is so intimidating that Stormy feared for his life for over a year. Twitch probably was sent all this information, but obviously Twitch did not care. Despite Twitch's claims that they take claims seriously, they only ever banned people who admitted what they did, and Nappy would never come out to do so, allowing for his Twitch channel just to be up. But at least PokeTubers united and made their stance clear. Nappy would release this video on October 9th, 2020, announcing his return, and the reaction of PokeTubers to this news would be to not care at all. No Philly Beats U update, not even Shizzy was saying anything. No new thread, just nothingness. I really do believe that the reason for the lack of response to Nappy's return is that they just got tired of it. Everything was out there about him, every allegation made against him, all the accusations, his shitty attitude, everything. So what's the real point in trying to drive this fucking fly off the internet when everyone has already aired out the fart that is Nappy, other than letting the man creatively suffocate in obscurity? Every now and then though, Sacred or Jay will make a new tweet bringing him up every few months. Despite the hint at upcoming content, Nappy didn't return until he uploaded a vlog on December 6, 2020. In it, he introduced his boyfriend, Hector. Some say he's Nappy's fiance. We also don't know how old Hector is. Does Hector know about the grooming Nappy committed? By now he probably does, and it's clear he doesn't care since he's still with Nappy. Anyway, Nappy would do some series and vlogs. Nappy's last video up until recently was partway in Sword and Shield postgame on February 4th, 2021. By that point, Nappy was not even hitting 1,000 likes a video anymore. His Nappy the Great and Nappy Speaks channels haven't been updated since 2019. A majority of the comments are just 18 months of shunning him and countering the people defending him. Social Blade at the time was saying he was getting at least 1 million views when he returned in October. By August 2022, he got about 200,000 views a month, an 80% drop, $1,000 a month or less, and that's assuming Nappy's numbers were similar to Social Blade's. All his latest videos up until that point were getting abysmal interaction. This is the most abandoned project Nappy's ever had. In the description of that video, he promised new merch and a website coming. Those things would never happen. Nappy didn't update anyone on why he stopped or when he was even coming back. His Nappy Lifts Instagram was completely dead. The issue now was this: if no one was going to even talk about this anymore, all that was left was for rumors to take over the Nappy narrative and kicking it downhill. Some people thought he was dead. Some people thought he was in jail. Some got way too personal and started looking into his life. During this time is where someone actually found out that Nappy had actually filed legal paperwork for the Soul Link Nuzlocke under his real name, Kyle McNeil. Along with the UCL and the term Penta-Op, he did this like weeks before that Christmas 2019 stream. The issue is that the file had addresses on it. People were looking up his house and would mention in his abandoned YouTube comment section that he sold it. Just a month ago, someone made a YouTube comment on his channel saying, "Hey guys, I found his job, do I post?" And then all of a sudden people started talking. Since Nappy left, many comments have just implied Nappy's R-worded kids of various ages. Combine that with the fact that more and more Nappy stuff is getting hidden out of the Google search results. At the same time, some people have tried to suggest that despite not seeing him at all for over a year, he got help or disproved all allegations. Finally, on February 14, 2020, Mudkip Mama or Jamie tried to escape under an alt, that new alt being called Kinetic Stan. In summer 2020, Sacred makes the twit longer. The next day, Sacred and this account talk about Jamie. After this, Sacred reveals that Nappy is in her Discord. One user even pointed out that Jamie's old Mudkip Mama Twitter had a weird cryptic bio asking for someone to come and find her. Jamie went on private for 2 weeks after this, unprivated, and then PokeTubers would say nothing about it. Nappy returned in October 2020, still nothing. By this point, Kinetic Stan is out here dating a 19-year-old on Twitter named Xenomark0. Jamie's out here getting commissions, and it turns out Jamie is now Xenomark's mod and is incorporating herself into the Mario Odyssey speedrun community. Again, nothing from the PokeTubers. By November 2021, onlookers decided that they had enough. From what I hear, they looked up Kinetic Stan's Twitch account online and saw that she was following around 300 people. Date and time stamped the majority of everyone she followed since 2020 were in the Mario Odyssey community, and a decent amount of them were underage streamers. Looking into it, she was a mod for many underage Twitch streamers. So what did they end up doing was contact every adult streamer she was following and explain Jamie's background. Most of them listened. No one in the Odyssey community had heard of any of this before. When it comes to Nikki Flair, Raffi Trey, Trizzy Trey, and her husband, Mr. Brizzo, they were all still with Kinetic Stan through it all. Xenomark was still standing by Jamie. they are a couple. They tried to wait until the heat died down and would come back earlier this year. That's when Jamie renamed herself to Miss Stan Lee, and relatively quickly the community shut it down. Jamie has been on private ever since. Xenomark's friends apparently have said that he was also young when he and Jamie met, and they do worry for his well-being, especially since he stopped streaming and doesn't interact with anyone much anymore. Same time though, he does have a responsibility to keep his community safe, and he clearly wasn't doing that. Although it should be said by this point, people weren't taking chances and made sure if Jamie played this game again, the Mario Odyssey community would know where to find her. This here is her ult. Nappy to this day is uploading content, sometimes almost hitting 10,000 views, and looking at the comments, it seems as if everyone forgot what had happened, only reminiscing on the old days of his content. The story of Nappy is one that should not be forgotten. Many people were hurt and traumatized over his actions, even the actions of the friends he held close, such as Jamie and Nathan. One thing is clear though, Nappy has fallen and left his throne behind. There are many of those who have risen throughout the years in the community as well, and I do believe that it's best for everyone to forget Nappy and erase the disgusting stain he left on the community, but to never forget what he has done, so it doesn't happen again. This was the story of Nappy, the king who lost his throne, or maybe the king who never was one at all.